Hey, this is Jay from Stitch in Time in Bemidji, Minnesota, and got a lot of people that are starting to embroider, and they got a lot of questions, and they're similar questions to what other people might have, so I thought I would make a little video to go over them all to begin with, and so that everyone can benefit from the same understanding. The first thing is talking about bobbins. Now, bobbin thread, as we are used to doing it with our regular sewing machines, is that we would always use the same thread on the top of the fabric as what we use on the bottom. This way our tensions are lined up perfectly. Embroidery, it's different though. With embroidery, you use something that's called bobbin thread. And bobbin thread is very thin. It's especially weighted so that you can have a little bit more tension on the thread while still being thin, and you can get more thread on your bobbin because we go through a lot of stitches in embroidery. So we want a thin thread that has good tension so that we don't have any bobbin thread popping through on the top. We want it to stay on the bottom side of our embroidery design. But not all bobbin threads are created equal. And not all machines can work with the same ones. Like our Janome machines can use the bobbin thread from OESD just fine, and it works perfectly. But if we try and put that in our brother machines, because of the hook structure and because of the way the tension in the bobbin case is, we don't get a proper tension. And it ends up being a little bit popping through a little on the top a little bit more, and it ends up making a thicker design. Brother sells bobbin thread that works really well, but it's like $12 a spool, and it's the same amount of thread as what you get on your Floriani spools or things like that. And so we haven't carried that, and we've been struggling to know what to carry for a number of years, but then we finally found a product from Superior Threads. It is called Bottom Line Quilting Thread. And this stuff, it comes in a big cone. It sells for about $16 here at the store. It is a little over 3,000 yards. So for about a little bit more than the price of what you're paying for the brother spool, you're getting 3 times as much yardage, and you can wind your bobbins much more effectively. But some people always ask, well, what about pre-wound bobbins? Because they sell those that you are already pre-wound, so you can just pop out that empty one and put in a new one. And that is true. The commercial embroiderers use pre-wound bobbins all the time. Now what you have to understand is that commercial machines use a different style of bobbin. Theirs are what are called L class. All of our brother and Janome machines are 15 class machines. But the ones that are sold commercially generally are L class bobbins, excuse me, like the letter L, is what the bobbins are. And they're made differently. So if you notice that, like here's a pre-wound bobbin that's a 15 class, and you can see it's got the plastic edges to it, but it is pre-wound with that weighted bobbin thread. And we sell those here. They come in a little tube from Filtech, and those ones here, we sell them like that, or we sell them 80 in a box, depending on what you want. But those are 15 class, and they're a lot thicker. Now I'm going to put up an L class beside this here. You can see the difference. You see the one on this side is a lot thinner than the other one. And also, they make this in 2 different ways. This one's got a little black ring there that's a magnet, and that will actually give a little drag to it. And we use this in our 10 needles all the time. It's wonderful for 10 needles or multi-needles like that. Because it fits in there so well, and you don't have any of the cardboard dust that comes from those cardboard sided ones. Because that's the other one I don't even have here. And you know why I don't have any? Because I don't sell them. We have too many problems with those little cardboard pieces creating little paper mache down in your bobbin case, and lots of dust and lint, and sometimes those cardboard pieces get folded over, and then it gives really wonky tensions. And so we have not been happy with them, and we don't stock them anymore. We have found these ones work really well and much better than the others in our multi-needle machines. But let's say you got a whole bunch of them. Your friend gave you a whole scat of those cardboard-sided ones. What are you supposed to do with them? Well, if you look in most of your embroidery machines, in that little pouch, a little white pouch that has all those accessories that you never really use, if you look in them, a lot of times you will find a little washer that looks like this. It's a little flat metal washer that has, a lot of times it'll have a magnet on the back side of it. There you can see it. But it's got this little dimple in the middle. What is that for? Well, that is so that if you're using those cardboard sided ones, you can put those on top of here, and now that is the same thickness. as a standard bobbin. And it lifts it up a little bit so you get better tensions and you don't have the problems with it falling down. Especially that little dimple in the middle there keeps this thing spinning in the middle of your bobbin case and not wobbling all around in there like a loose tire. And so if you're going to use those cardboard sided ones, I would suggest you rip the cardboard off right from the very get-go and then use this little washer, and that's a way that you can get through that. I use pre-wound bobbins all the time, but as long as you know what thread you're buying and making sure you're getting the right style of bobbin or using the right adapters, they can be very useful for you. Do they save you money? No, no. For instance, if I was going to buy bobbin thread like this and wind my own bobbins, 100 bobbins, or let's see, 80 bobbins would probably cost me about $35 to $40 worth of thread. If I was to buy them pre-wound, it would cost me $65 to $70. So you might say, well, $20 for all those bobbins, I don't have to sit there and wind them? I'm in. Buy it, show me where to buy them, and I'll gladly do that. We'll gladly sell them for you. But for those of us who are trying to pinch our pennies, you know, that is something else to keep in mind. Let's talk about embroidery needles here quickly as well. So embroidery needles are something that people wonder, which one do you use? What size do you use? And the one that we use almost all the time is a Schmetz embroidery needle. We use a size 7511. And I have embroidered on Carhartt jackets. I have embroidered on quilt squares. I have embroidered on just about everything with that. The only time I will go up to a larger needle is when I'm running a cotton thread or something when I'm doing quilting with my long arm, or with my embroidery machine. And then I will need a larger needle, not because I'm going through thicker material, but because I'm using a thicker thread that doesn't flow through the eye of a 7511 very well. The embroidery needles are specially formulated for embroidery because they have a very sharp point to them. Because when you're doing embroidery, you want the stitches placed exactly where they should be. If you're embroidering on something coarse, like a Carhartt, that has a very coarse weave, and the needle is going to try and find its easiest way through them, and sometimes it'll slide off to the side and you end up with a choppy look to your embroidery, something that does not look attractive. And so using the proper needle, again, is really important. Sometimes if you're using a metallic thread, I'll use a metallic needle, and these will work much better for those threads because it's got a longer eye. So the thread, you know, as the needle's coming down through the eye, the needle doesn't have to come down, through, and over. With a longer eye, it can come down more at an angle, and it's less stress on the thread. There are other manufacturers out there that have titanium needles, and they have ones like this that are gold-plated. These ones do run cooler, but it doesn't necessarily keep their point any longer. So what do we stock these for? The reason we stock these is there's times that we use fusible materials like fusible backings or sticky back stabilizers. And sometimes those can tend to gum up our needles, especially at the high speeds that we embroider at. Because what will happen is as your needle's going back and forth through the needle so quick, or through the material so quickly, it will heat up the needle enough that the adhesive now sticks to the needle instead of to the fabric that it's supposed to. And that will lead to shredding threads, skipping stitches, and then you take out that needle, put in a new needle, and it sews perfectly for, you know, 100 stitches or 1,000 stitches, and all of a sudden it's back to doing the exact same thing again. Well, that's what's happening. Our needle is getting hot. And so if you have to use one of those products, these needles will help out, the titanium coated ones or the gold plated ones from Schmetz as well. But it's not like you have to use them or that it's going to give you that much longer of a lifespan of your needle. They're not true titanium, it's just simply a titanium coating. So they can dull just as quickly as some of the other ones. So just keep that aware. I mean, you run it into a needle plate, you're going to be replacing that needle no matter what happens. But let's talk about the adhesives, because a lot of times people want to spray adhesive on their stabilizers and stick to the back of their embroidered item. And I do that frequently. When I'm working with a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or anything that's stretchy, I always use some sort of adhesive to fasten that stabilizer to the item I'm embroidering on. I fasten that stabilizer to the embroidery item that I'm using. And that is so important because it actually stabilizes the material much more effectively than just having it floating on top of it. You know, for instance, if you're using a denim shirt like this and you put stabilizer on the back, I won't use any adhesive because this shirt is very stable and it's going to stick in that hoop and it's not going to shift around. But if you're doing a t-shirt, well, that material can shift all over. I need to adhere that to the stabilizer to get the most out of my stabilizer. And so then I will use a spray. And then everyone asks, are all sprays created equal? And the answer is absolutely not. There are a lot of sprays out there that are sold for a variety of purposes, and some of them are cheaper than others because they're cheaper to manufacture. I've had people come in here with quilt basting spray and they wonder why their embroidery machine is skipping stitches. And I've gone through everything. The machine's mechanically perfect, but I can't find what's going on. And so finally I have them bring in the item they're using and I see that it's all sticky on the backside and I go, oh, what spray are you using? Oh, that's stuff I got from the big box store, no names. And I said, what kind of spray is it? Oh, it's something for quilt basting spray or something like that. You know, they sell huge cans of those for like $6 or $8. And we think it's a great value, but what's happening is that stuff never fully sets up. And so as your needle's going through there, it gets very gummy. I run into the same thing, and we refuse to do any long arm quilting on people's quilts that they've used that quilt basting spray, because we run into the exact same issue on our long arm machines as we do on our embroidery machines. So what kind of sprays do you use? Well, I'm always looking for the best deals I can get for you guys as well. You know, there is a company out there called Gunold that makes a embroidery basting spray that works really well, but the price difference wasn't enough for me to switch brands, you know, that I didn't find it. Maybe some of you have a brand that you find has worked for you, you want to recommend for me. You can message me or email me and let me know. But the ones that I have found work the best is the 505 spray. I can use this on my embroidery machines. I've even used it some on my long arm quilting if I have to for a little bit, for a little project. But this stuff will not gum up your needle. And I mean, it will not. I've been using it now for almost 20 years, and it has always been excellent for us in that realm. It comes in two sizes. There's a 6-ounce and a 12-ounce, depending on which one you use. If you go through it frequently, absolutely, go ahead, buy the big one. If you only use it a couple times a year, buy the small one. Or you use it, you know, once a month for a little project, buy the small one. They do sometimes, those caps can get plugged, and that's a pain if you're going to lose half of a can of spray for that. But now I'm going to tell you one of my big pet peeves. There's no customers in here right now, so I can be blunt. Some people are in a hurry, and so they hoop up their stabilizer, and then with the stabilizer in the hoop, they just hit that and spray it with their spray, being careful to only get the stabilizer. Well, there's this thing called Overspray, and it's going to make your hoops a sticky, nasty mess. And so what I tell people is you don't have to have the stabilizer in the hoop to spray it. Get a little cardboard box. Amazon's, you know, is always sending them to you, you know, one of those nice big, you know, boxes, and has a lid to it or something. You open it up, put your stabilizer in there, spray it. That keeps all the overspray inside of there, and you're able to get everything cleaned up in there nicely. And then you take it out and hoop it. Well, most of that sticky stuff will not stick to your hoop, and it'll stick to the stabilizer if you wait for just a little bit. And it doesn't get your hoops all nasty looking. And that is really, really nice to use. But some of you are kind of going, uh-oh, he talked to me about it. Yeah, he's seen my hoops. Yes, that is true. And thankfully, there is a way to back out of that. There is another product called 404 Adhesive Remover. Excuse me, I take that back. No, this is the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong can over here. That's something different. We have another spray over here that takes off that sticky stuff. So you can spray it on it, let it sit for a minute, and then you can wipe it off with a paper towel. It works really well. Don't use it on your sewing machines. It will ruin the finish on your sewing machine. So don't do that. But that again is some of the basic tips and tricks I have. I'll do another one on stabilizers in a little bit, or maybe even in a few days next week. But that is the basics for some of the things with bobbin threads and needles and embroidery sprays. Anyways, hope you have a great day, and hopefully this helps you out in figuring out some of these things. Take care.